In 1973, Doctor Who fans received for the first time the opportunity to revisit previous episodes. For the first time, viewers who missed the first Dalek serial could find out what all the fuss was about. But as the 1980s began, a newfangled piece of technology was getting ever more popular: the video cassette. Nearly 150 stories were released on this format, and the range still continued into the DVD range. So, let's take a look back at the history of Doctor Who on VHS. In 1983, preparations began for the Long Lead Convention, and by the request of BBC Video, a survey was to be taken at the event to determine the first release of Doctor Who on video. Tomb of the Cybermen won the vote, and indeed when it was released on video in 1992, it was the highest selling Doctor Who video, but unfortunately in 1983, Tomb of the Cybermen was still missing from the BBC archives. So instead, a surviving colour Cyberman story was selected, Revenge of the Cybermen. It was released on the 3rd of October 1983 and re-released on the 14th of May 1984. And with that re-release came the announcement of another Tom Baker story to be released, The Brain of Morbius. This was released on the 9th of July. This may seem a rather slow release schedule, but as we'll see later, things begin to pick up soon enough. On the 4th of February 1985, the next story was released, Pyramids of Mars, another high seller. But in July we get our first. With the release of The Seeds of Death, the first black and white story was released, and what a story to choose. This was an edited release, like many videos of the time. Rather than splitting the story across 2 tapes, the story would be edited down to 60 minutes or thereabouts to keep costs down. 1985 was closed out with the release of The Five Doctors in September, and then as Doctor Who went on hiatus, another story was released in April, The Robots of Death, followed by the release of Day of the Daleks, and yet another re-release of Revenge of the Cybermen. 1987 saw the re-releases of Pyramids of Mars and The Seeds of Death, followed shortly by the release of the John Pertwee story, Death to the Daleks. And the following February saw the release of another John Pertwee story, his first in fact, Spearhead from Space, which was followed by the re-releases of The Robots of Death and Day of the Daleks, then the releases of The Talons of Weng Chiang and Terror of the Zygons. The following year saw no re-releases, but 3 releases on one day, the 5th of June. These re-releases were The Time Warrior, The Ark in Space and The Daleks. As the classic era of Doctor Who reached its end, a mega year for video releases was to happen, with the releases of An Unearthly Child, Doctor Who's first episode, The War Games, Patrick Troughton's last story, The Dalek Invasion of Earth, The Mind Robber, The Web Planet, The Dominators, and re-releases of The Five Doctors and The Brain of Morbius. The following year saw more releases, including the first release from the McCoy era in The Curse of Fenric. On the 17th of July, the first 2 releases from the Doctor Years series was released. This series was directed by 80s producer John Nathan Turner and would show episodes from the respective Doctor's era. For example, in the Hartnell Years tape, the pilot episode and 2 orphaned episodes were shown, these being Part 3 of The Crusade and Part 4 of The Celestial Toymaker. The following year, 1992, the much-loved story Tomb of the Cybermen was found. The finding of this prompted a quick release on the 11th of May. This year also saw the first release of the famously uncompleted story Shada, written by Douglas Adams, with Tom Baker narrating the missing sections. Shada! Let's skip forward to 1995, where a special edition of the episode The Five Doctors, with updated special effects, surround sound capability, and extended scenes was released. This will become important later. The following February, the video range was suspended due to the imminent release of the forthcoming TV movie. This also resulted in many back titles being deleted, including the very recent release of The Hand of Fear, which made this particular title most sought after. The range would see a very brief return in May for the release of the TV movie, and then a full return in October for The Green Death. In 1999, Doctor Who was chosen as one of 6 DVDs released to represent the BBC as a test of the DVD market by BBC Worldwide. This decision would spell the end of the VHS range. The episode chosen was The Five Doctors, specifically the special edition version first released back in 1995. The release proved a success, and the following year saw the release of The Robots of Death on DVD, and many more to follow. The VHS range concluded on the 24th of November 2003. with the release of the 40th anniversary release, containing orphaned episodes of The Reign of Terror, The Faceless Ones and The Web of Fear, which also coincided with the release of The Three Doctors on DVD, once again for the 40th anniversary celebrations.